Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The board chair, Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our compatriots in the media and civil society, I thank the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism for this platform to reflect on the shrinking media and civic space in our country. We stand in solidarity with all citizens in detention for no other reason than exercising their right to freedom of expression. I share the opinion of majority of Nigerians who note that the state repression we are witnessing today is not a strange phenomenon. Nigeria has always been a repressive society, except that the repression we are currently facing has gone several notches higher than what we suffered as citizens in the last 5 decades. Under the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria is unfortunately inching fast towards a fascist state where due process and the rule of law, the foremost pillar of democracy, is under severe assault, where individuals, media, and civic freedom is held completely subordinate to the power and authority of the state, and where those who hold power are not accountable to the people. Let us not make any mistake about it. This is the dawn of fascism, targeted especially at the media and civil society, whose power to mobilize citizens to demand better governance seriously worries this government. That is why across the country, security agents are being used as instruments to intimidate and harass journalists and activists, and indeed other citizens who voice dissenting opinions, challenge abuse, and call for accountability. Undoubtedly, Nigerians are in for a very rough ride under the Buhari presidency. If there had been doubts about this government's anti-democratic credentials, the invasion of the court last Friday by agents of State Security Service to arrest Omoyole Sowore and Olawale Bakare, even when they are on bail and had subjected themselves to trial, has put paid to all of that. The first real sign that this government will be a replica of the excesses of Mr. Buhari's earlier emergence in 1984 as a military dictator was his appearance at the annual conference of the Nigerian Bar Association, where he told his audience that the nation's security and national interest, which is more like Mr. Buhari's security and personal interest, will be the primary determinants of governance ahead of the rule of law. And that's why, rather than act in line with the dictates of the courts, the Nigerian government and its agents are arbitrarily harassing and detaining citizens under the pretext of safeguarding the country's security and national interest. It is ironic that we are witnessing in a country that calls itself a democracy. Under this government, we've seen the invasion of the National Assembly by the SSS. We have seen abuse of due process, the desecration of our courts, and the strangulation of judiciary by the same SSS. Now they have descended on the last bastion of our democracy, the media and civil society. But we have no choice. This is the time to return to the trenches. We've done it before. We defeated all anti-democratic forces in the past. We shall do it again. We call for the immediate and unconditional release of Omoyole Sowore, Olawale Bakare, Agba Jalingo, and other journalists and civic activists languishing in prisons across the country. That is the only condition for this government to enjoy any form of legitimacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now move on to the next category of awards that I'd like to introduce to you. The Anti-Corruption Defender Award was instituted in 2009 by the Center in collaboration with a number of civil society organizations in honor of a Nigerian individual or organization deemed to be of outstanding character and who has a public record of stance against corruption. The award has been previously given to Malam Nuhu Ribadu in 2009, posthumously to Chief Gani Fawayemi in 2010, Justice Kayode Esho in 2011, and Alhaji Balarabe Musa in 2012. Dr. Chidi Odinkalu in 2013, Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP in 2014, Professor Atahiru Jega in 2015, Public-Private Development Center, PPDC, in 2016, and Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, 2017, and Mr. Waziri Adio, 2018. Please let me invite Ms. Osai Ojigo, Country Director, Amnesty International Nigeria, to stand for the citation reading and later receive the award. Amnesty International started working in Nigeria on June 1967 and has been working in Nigeria since then through its international secretariat and partners in country. In 2015, Amnesty International Nigeria was established in Abuja as a national office of Amnesty International. This was as a result of the implementation of a new policy of moving closer to the ground. The national office is a registered non-governmental organization under the Nigerian law. In its 4 years' existence in Nigeria, Amnesty International Nigeria has carried out extensive research and campaigning work in Nigeria, covering various human rights issues including forced evictions in Lagos, Abuja, Kaduna, Rivers, and Imo states, police brutality, criminal justice review, abolition of the death penalty, human rights violations in the northeast of Nigeria, women's rights, support for human rights defenders and activists, freedom of expression, and enforcement of economic, social, and cultural rights. Amnesty International hopes to see a world in which every person enjoys all of the human rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other international human rights instruments. For Amnesty International, no government is beyond scrutiny, and no situation is beyond hope. For its remarkable voice against human rights violations and oppressive laws, and its effort to defend freedom of expression in Nigeria, the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism hereby awards Amnesty International Nigeria the 2019 Anti-Corruption Defender Award, Human Rights Specialty. I hereby call on Ms. Ayo Obe to present the award.
Won't you help to sing this song of freedom? Redemption song, redemption song, emancipation, settlement, slavery. Now for us, love can free our mind. Ooh, I've no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
How long shall it kill our progress?
In 1967, Amnesty International started its work in Nigeria with a first case. Incidentally, the case was a prisoner of conscience, and it was Professor Wole Soyinka. And today, we continued the work as Nigerians who are working in Nigeria and supporting and calling for human rights. We recently also announced 3 new prisoners of conscience, Showore, Bakare, and Jalingo. Because the only reason why they are in prison today and are facing these threats and intimidation is as a result of giving their opinion, of expressing concern about the injustices, the corruption, and the challenges we're all facing in Nigeria today. I speak for my colleagues and our supporters in Amnesty International Nigeria when I say we joined the organization because we believed that we can contribute to making Nigeria a better country that is safe and secure for each and every one of us. The award today is a recognition of our work, and it's an encouragement to each and every one of us that when you speak truth to power, there are people also who are watching, who are seeing, and who support you. So this award is to civil society and to the Nigerian people for supporting Amnesty International and our presence in the country. Thank you, and thank you, Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism, for this great recognition. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. With all of these awards, I feel like I should return to my first love and my field of training, which is journalism. Okay, it's now time to go on to the next major award, which is Lifetime Award for Journalistic Excellence. The Wole Soyinka Lifetime Award for Journalistic Excellence was introduced in 2007 to honor those who have done and or are still doing great exploits in the media profession as an inspiration for the present and the future. It has been given to Alhaji Bolaji Babatunde Jose, 2007, Malham Adamu Siroma in 2008, Dr. Christopher Kolade, 2009, Dr. Doyin Abiola, 2010, Mr. Lanre Idowu, 2011, Mr. Benson Idonije, 2012, Miss Ama Ogan, 2013, Mr. Ademola Oshinobi, 2014, Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, 2015, Mr. Kabiru Yusuf in 2016, Mr. Edeten Ojo, 2017, and Mr. John Momo in 2018. Lifetime Award for Journalistic Excellence, Mr. Sumi Smart Cole. The Port Harcourt-born Nigerian Sierra Leonean Sumi Smart Cole is known for his versatility, wide-range interest, and varied experience in photography, music, fashion, and journalism. Although mostly self-taught, his strong visual sense made him embark on a photography course in 1976 at Foothill College in Los Altos, California. Sumi held his first solo exhibition at Stanford University, California in 1978. He continued to work to support his new interest until his return to Nigeria in 1982. A pioneer of many firsts, Smart Cole became the first photo editor of the newly established Guardian newspaper in 1983. Readers looked forward to viewing his black and white works with witty captions on Sundays in Sunday Portfolio, a column devoted to his photographs. Subsequently, editorship of the weekly social paper, Lagos Life, gave Smart Cole the opportunity to design a newspaper which reached a high standard both visually and in terms of content. He was part of the Pioneer Judges Board for Wole Soyinka Investigative Reporting Award in 2005. Mr. Smart Cole captured the photograph that gave the international community their first glimpse of Ibrahim Bademasi Babangida, Nigeria's new head of state after the August 1985 coup d'etat. Appointed managing editor of the Guardian newspaper in 1988, Smart Cole resigned in 1989 to return to full-time photography. The Smart Cole Gallery of Photography, probably the first in Africa, was opened in Yaba, Lagos in 1990. His first book, The Photography of Sumi Smart Cole, with foreword from Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, in black and white, was published in 1991. A celebrated photographer, Smart Cole has many awards to his credit, including the first Tinapa Movie Awards Achievement in Entertainment Award, Golden Camera Award, the Vivante Award as a champion of the nation building category, Unique Value Innovators, and the Photojournalists Association of Nigeria, PJAN, Award for Inspirational Support. He has held many exhibitions in 5 continents, including in Nigerian missions in Addis Ababa, Brasilia, and London, to promote the country's image as a cultural ambassador. For these accomplishments, outstanding contribution to journalism, and commitment to mentoring the next generation of photojournalists, the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism awards Sumi Smart Cole the 2019 Lifetime Award for Journalistic Excellence. I hereby call on Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, to present the award.
Be happy. Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry. Be happy. In life you've got so many troubles, but when you worry you make it double. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Good evening, everybody. I must start by thanking Professor Soyinka for what he's done for this country. Don't forget, and the man died. When the Civil War was on, Nigerians were clean Nigerians. In 3 years, about 1 million people died. The government was spending $3 million per day to prosecute the war. Reading materials like foreign papers, things that I loved reading, Time Magazine, Newsweek, Washington Post, London Times, even cheap London papers like the Daily Mirror were not allowed in. At that time, I had a barber shop, which I opened in 1967. I used to pay people 5 shillings, people who clean aircrafts, to dash into the first class compartment to pick up newspapers. And most of the army officers we hear about now, or we heard of, they were coming to my barber shop on Saturdays, Fridays, and say, where are the parties? They didn't know Lagos. We had to show them. Don't forget, I'm a Yaba man. When people ask me, say, where's your village? I say, Yaba. And since the Oba of Lagos has no jurisdiction up to Yaba, I call myself the Ya of Yaba. I don't have any other title. I don't have any title. Prefer to be known as just Sumi Smart Code. In fact, the Sumi means it's actually Sumi Sola Smart Code. Wole Soyinka crossed the border, meaning the Biafrans, as Biafrans, had gotten to Ore. He went there to meet Ojukwu at the risk of his life. I remember I have his autograph 3 times now. He wrote the foreword to my first book, The Photography of Subi's Code. The last one, some people have a few copies here now. It's called Subi's Lens. He gave it the title. I begged him to write the foreword. He read it and gave a title, something he felt that it was a medium between, please, Femi, help me. Medium between life and nature. And I couldn't argue. Man and nature, yes, I couldn't argue. Recently, an Englishman called Keith Richards wrote a book, and Prof agreed to review it for him. Review. So when I was at the place, I called him and I said, you are lucky. Prof review. This is an Englishman who used to be managing director of Guinness. But outside, I called him and I said, I'm luckier than you. He's written 2 forewords for me. When Shagari's government was looking for him, they were expecting him to arrive at the Ikeja airport. Yemi Ogumbi and I went to Seme. Seme border. We went over to the other side. said hello, hello to the boys. And he came and entered the car wearing a t-shirt, white t-shirt. And somebody in front of us said, they tell the boy, the guards, and say, that car is with me. And we ended up at the Guardian newsroom. Where I took his photograph. I think it's in that book or the first book. He's a man of honor. To be associated with his name is the greatest honor. Call it anything. Greater honor. There was a time even an Englishman, something Allen, was accused of planning coup, trying to help people plan coup. They arrested him, granted him bail. Nobody wanted to be associated with him. But I remember seeing him with Prof and Peter Inahoro, Peter Pan, and Kaban Bamboo, drinking beer. And I even got his autograph because I knew that someday something might happen. Like my friend Fela, and then Ransom Kuti. I asked him his autograph. He said, we are friends. Why do you ask? I've been collecting autographs since I was a little boy. I need it. I didn't know he was going to change his name. So now, if you were to ask me to sell that autograph, I might say $100,000. And somebody, a collector somewhere in the world, might pay. I was sitting near Femi. I mentioned Shawore to him. There was a time Shawore stepped on my toes. I called Femi. I said, look, you remember what we did for these boys when we were at Unilag? Get into please, ladies and gentlemen, please, I beg you, get up and give a round of applause for Femi Falana for protecting, defending those boys free of charge. Till today, please rise up. Those students got into trouble fighting for freedom. He defended them free of charge. And he's still doing it today. So he said, don't buy the boys. He actually gave me Shaware's number in New York. We spoke on the phone. There's a quotation I saw somewhere recently. They're talking about revolution. When did that become a crime? To say we want to change our society for good or whatever. You don't hold people indefinitely without trial in a democratic society. In this country, before independence, there was a ban on communist and literature. 3 days after independence, Balewa lifted the ban. So all the people hear about Zogu and a man called Lakia, a British man of French descent, was commissioner of police. Himself and Nzogu investigated how the bloody civilians were able to stage a coup backed by Kwame Nkrumah, and they went to Unsawam, the School of Ideological Studies. After reading, my friend Kunle, the late Kunle Maja, was an agent for Chinese. He was selling the little red book by Mao. They started reading. And some of them got converted to socialism. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why you read. Then they decided to stage a coup. Zogu wasn't the leader. It was Ifajuna. And Ifajuna's job was to capture Brigadier General Mai Malari, to take him to the TV station, and he will announce that, we Northerners are part of it. I mean, we are the same. In fact, that time, that was the only organization in Nigeria where you found complete unity. Ifajuna saw Mai Malari in the mess. He now remembered that if Mai Malari, who was a brigadier, has used his rank to more or less take his girlfriend away from him. And he was a major. So instead of capturing him, he shot him dead. And that was the end of the coup in Lagos. Later on, when we talk, everybody here, I'm sure, who was old enough in 1993, must have voted for Abiola. Not because people loved him, but they wanted to get rid of the army and their tyranny. But you know what his problem was? He loved women too much, especially wives of officers. No, don't laugh. A woman called Saudatu Rimi was his pimp. If you're a woman and your husband, you say you want to go to London, I want to go on London flights, and your husband is a major, says, here is 2,000 pounds for shopping. They will go to Abiola, he will give them 12,000, 10,000. And Sauda to put her 4,000 here and give you the rest. I know he made a pass at some important person. You talk about investigative journalism, please, it's not because of my work as Lagos Life editor. I did other things. Somebody is sending me a note that we have to move on. I refuse. I must talk. This is my first time of talking to a group of journalists like this. Please listen. They say, well, I'm 78 now. So I've collected my boarding pass. If God says tomorrow, I'll go. But listen to me. You might learn something. So those of us, first of all, I did not vote. I was on my way to Singapore. I left London on the 12th of June, arrived on the 13th. So I called home on the 14th. They said, Abiola, landslide, he had won. Everybody was happy. But remember when the white dogs captured him at the army, the cantonment? The Air Force base. They said he asked for coffee, they gave him tea, he didn't know the difference. As an accountant, we had only 6 digits. He had all the numbers in his head. He called everybody. Only Aikomo and picked up the score. And then begged Babangida 3 times. Said, because of me, Augustus Aikomo, let him go. And they let him go. I got involved in one case. I don't know if people see me at work when I wear my jacket, you know. He will hug me and say, my brother, I like the way you dress. You dress like people I encounter overseas. He saw me at the Hilton in Abuja. I was staying at the Sheraton. He said, come and take my photograph tomorrow morning. So we agreed for 8 o'clock. I got there by 7:30 to set up. One guy called Emeka, if you go to the Hilton, he's still there. He used to be a bellhop. He's now a manager in their sales office. Emeka Akobundu. He said, Uncle Sumi, what are you doing? I said, I'm here to photograph Chief Abiola. He said, Chief Abiola, he don't run, oh. I said, what? He said, he don't run. I said, what happened? He said, they came after him. And that was when people were using North 9 knots. They couldn't reach the airport to stop his aircraft. Why? He made a pass at somebody's wife. I know a senior policeman, Sauda Turimi, could not convince the pretty wife. Then she started writing poison letters to the person. The person took a gun to Sauda Turimi's house, husband's house, after finding out from a courier company that they used to get a phone call from a certain house in Ikoyi. He went there to kill the woman, but the woman wasn't home. So when I want you to listen, those people who are Yoruba, they say, Yoruba, now Yoruba, they do Yoruba. The Oni of Ife, the late Oni, led a delegation of Onis, people, to stop the government from keeping him. Please, if you don't want to listen, I'll get down. They said, don't give him. Even when he was videotaped saying they understood. Later on, newspaper writers say he said he was misquoted when his voice and face were on video. Then it got to a point, to everybody's surprise, Abacha and Dia said we must continue. Alice Madeke and Chris Ali for Army, Alice Madeke for Navy, were newly appointed. They said, let's go back to barracks. Abacha sacked them immediately he got in. Our born-again Christian David Mark led a group that said, give him in 6 months, we kill him and continue. Then now, somebody from Dia, from Udogbolu, that's in Ogun State, said, yeah, no. Then, somebody else from, 2 people from Ibadan, 2 generals from Ibadan, all Yorubas, now said, anyway. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the people from all parts of the country had 5 Yorubas trying to bring him down. I said no. So I've collected my but please, no, let me say, listen, please. I want to say something. I want to say something. I am writing my memoirs, but if for this, I exposed Kereku, who collected $30 million from Russians, and they buried toxic waste in the Republic of Benin. It was written, the story was written in The Guardian. So for this,
I don't want people to do you off.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And may your days be long. All right, I have to move on to the final category of the awards tonight. The 2019 WSCIJ Nigerian Investigative Reporter of the Year. From 194 entries and 13 finalists, the 2019 winner for the Nigerian Investigative Reporter of the Year is Isine Ibanga. The Judges Board of the 2019 Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting notes the significant effort that went into exposing the systematic extortion and callous corruption among law enforcement officers on Nigerian roads. Such practices are ultimately borne by the Nigerian people in form of high prices of foodstuff and high levels of frustration in the country. For the tenacity, doggedness, and focused handling of the story, Isine today makes the celebrated list of the WSCIJ Nigerian Investigative Reporters as its 2019 winner. I hereby call on Professor Rocco Shekoni to present the award. While Professor Rocco is making his way to the stage, let me quickly announce that regarding Sharon Ijason, the runner-up, someone has offered the sum of 2 million naira so that she can continue investigation related to child rights. So Sharon Ijason, please make sure you meet with the center and relate with them for further information.
Oh, mommy,
Thank you so much. I wish I could help Mr. Ibanga with those awards, but I'll prefer to help him with the cash. We'd like to take just one more remark before we take the closing remarks, and then we'll have all the award recipients come on stage. Please, all the award recipients, including the honorary recipients of the award, after the closing remarks, you're all to come on stage for more photographs. But before then, please, let's take a brief remark from Mr. Isine Ibanga.
Thank you very much. I'm really so happy that I'm up here again. The first time I appeared in this hall was, I think, in 2014, and I was commended. I filed that entry for the CNN Awards, and I got it. I'm so happy that this time around, I have gotten these. Journalism is not a crime. We are going through a lot in this country, and it's as if the government sees us as enemy, or we are enemies of state. In spite of that, I want to encourage our colleagues everywhere in this country to stand up and do the needful. If we allow our pens to rest, this country will disintegrate. A lot of things are happening. Put your eyes on the ground, put your nose on the ground, and let's do what we have been doing. We are the best journalists in the world, and if we have the right environment, we can perform miracles. When people say that Nigerian journalists collect brown envelopes, I laugh. If you move Nigerian journalists to the West, the Western world, and bring them here, they'll do worse things. We walk on bare hands. And when they come here, they come with lots of money, lots of resources. And then even our colleagues, people here in Nigeria respect them more than they respect us. People will want to speak to them instead of speaking to us. That is why our president will always go abroad to speak. And when he is here, he's not speaking. Let's rise up and defend this profession, defend Nigeria, because this country belongs to us and it belongs to all of us. Thank you very much. I dedicate this award to my child, my wife. They allow me go for long period. I don't live with my family because of the dangers of the places I go to. I dedicate this award to Next Edition and to International Center for Investigative Reporting that supported me. I couldn't have done this alone. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir, and congratulations. Just a quick reminder, we want to ask that all honorary award recipients, finalists, board members, judges, and the presenters of the awards make their way to the stage after the closing remark. Before I take the closing remark, let me quickly ask that Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, make a brief remark.
Since the day is fast spent, I would just want to congratulate all the awardees tonight and to urge you to keep it up. Don't rest on your oars. But let me challenge the center by asking for a follow-up of some of the wonderful stories. If we are talking, say, for instance, on child labor, yes, we have honored the journalists that expose such dehumanization of our children. After the award, we must now ensure that we fight such injustice until it is over in our country. Secondly, and I think the center will have to consider that when I was coming here, I was reading some information about the award tonight. I think the office of the vice president issued a statement to the effect that since Sunday, the vice president had written to withdraw from this program. And I think that should be corrected because an announcement was made today that the center are taking a decision on the vice president. I think there will be some need to clarify so that we do not behave like the SSS, the State Security Service. And this is where I would like to urge all of us, particularly journalists, not to peddle rumors and official lies. A child can tell a lie, and I remember when growing up, telling a lie was very serious. But for a government to lie, it's a serious matter, and we must take it up. Two of your colleagues in government, Malam Garba Shehu and a pastor, Femi Adesina, issued some statement in the last 24 hours insulting our collective intelligence. I do hope that by tomorrow, both of them will have to apologize to the Nigerian people. I say this because this afternoon, and you can quote me on this afternoon, the SS management sent a delegation to the Federal High Court in Abuja to apologize officially over the criminal invasion of the court on Friday. I did disclose yesterday that after the armed invasion of the court, the judge involved summoned the prosecutor and myself to our chambers, where she expressed her indignation over what was a sacrilegious attack on our court. Both the lawyer to the SSS and the lead SSS officer in the court premises apologized profusely. I was therefore flabbergasted and even embarrassed when one guy that claims to be a journalist addressed the press on behalf of the SSS and claimed that the SSS was not in court. We have the photographs. I know the names of not less than 5 of them. At the right time, we shall expose them. But the most painful aspect is where some journalists are asking me, is it true that Shore's friends attacked him and they wanted to kill him? And I asked them to take it back. Because assuming without conceding that Shore's friends stage managed the attack, what is the duty of law enforcement officers? It is to save Shore from his friend and arrest those friends that wanted to kill him. More so that the government wanted to arrest Shore. So were you planning to arrest a dead body? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And all of this reminds me of my literature texts, one of which is written by Ayikwe Ama, titled "The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born." I can only hope that the beautiful ones that we said weren't yet born are in this room. Let me now call on Mr. G.T. Ogunye, Board Secretary, WSCIJ, for the closing remarks. Please, a round of applause for him.
Good evening. It's been a very wonderful day. On behalf of the board and management of the center and all the persons that have made this occasion possible, for the 14th time in 14 years, I want to thank every one of you for coming to participate in this program. And I want to also thank Board of Judges who persistently have been working for the center and for the right to freedom of expression and for the Nigerian people and indeed humanity for all these years in selecting the best, in investigative reporting and bringing them forward to be honored. Now let me just say this, and I want you to pay attention, please. This is an entreaty, not by way of command. Our country is going through a very serious phase in its historical journey. And of course, we're told that we are practicing democracy. In the earlier remarks made by Professor Shekoni, he was talking about how the work that journalists do is central to sustaining democracy. And where I sat, I was wondering whether this is a democracy that ought to be sustained or one that ought to be refurbished. Because I pay attention to words. If we believe that this, the democracy that we fought for and which we need to preserve and nurture, we may then be thinking about sustaining it. But again, I call attention to the import of words. I think that the work that journalists do is very important to remaking our country and remaking the kind of democracy we want to practice. Mr. Falano, in his remark here, talked about what had happened in our country these past few days. And while he was saying that, I was just reflecting because of the subject of interest. In 1993, 1994, Omoyele Sowore and his colleagues in University of Lagos, indeed 24 of them, including Malcolm Imofabiyi, Bola Ilori, who is a politician now, and many of them, following the anti-cult war in University of Lagos of that year, during the military era, were arrested by the police. And the police detained them all over Lagos, 24 of them, separately, in different police stations. Dr. Bekoransom Kuti, who was the then president of the CDHR, came to our law firm, and I'm talking about Mr. Femi Falana law firm, where I practiced. And he said, look, we can't leave these boys like this. We must do something. And we went into the matter. 24 of them were charged with armed robbery. I'm emphasizing this for you to know that when the state wants to detain you, particularly a state like the Nigerian state, they will invent all sorts of lies just to keep you behind bars. Because in all this talk about did anybody invade the court, people aren't asking the appropriate question, which is, if you arrested somebody for attempting to organize a revolution, before the staging of the revolution, anyway, because Sowore was arrested on the eve, meaning that he didn't participate in the actual revolution, right? And you detained him and then brought a charge eventually. And the court had to force you to release him And upon release, 24 hours later, you invaded the court to arrest him. Shouldn't we be asking the question, why should you do that? Why should you? And a lot of persons are saying that, well, the state said that he has committed new offenses, there are fresh charges. Why should there be fresh charges? That's indeed an abuse of the court process. You filing charges upon charges just to keep your victim perpetually behind bars. And on that occasion, when they were charged with armed robbery, as students who are fighting cultism, we took up the matter. Bayo Man, who later became a judge, was the DPP of Lagos. He was the one that the military sent to go and be prosecuting them for armed robbery. And we challenged that at the Federal High Court. Justice Maman Kolo, who was later removed from the bench by Abacha, was the judge. And he quashed that charge. That how could students be armed robbers? Following that quashing, the same 24 students were then expelled from University of Lagos by Nuruddin Alao Vice Chancellorship. Again, we went to court. And I handled both cases on behalf of the law firm, of course under the auspices of Mr. Falana. And Justice Moni Fafiade of the Ikeja High Court quashed their expulsion and they went back to school. That was how they were able to graduate. So when people then talked about somebody contested an election, he had 30-something thousand votes, he now wants to come and govern Nigeria through the back door. I said, and all of them are so many now. Internet gobbles on behalf of the administration, calling people out, pouring expletives on them, and cursing them for doing the right thing on behalf of the regime. And indeed, calling for the regulation of social media. Yes, they are calling for the regulation of the social media, that they are using the social media to attack the regime. So these online propagandists are now calling for the regulation of the social media, believing that those of us who are contrarian shouldn't have the right to freedom of speech. So I'm saying that the right to freedom of speech in Nigeria is under siege. If anybody, any administration should be talking about regulating the social media, it shouldn't be this administration now. Why? Because we remember 1984. Tunde Thompson, Unduka Irabo. You know the Yoruba say something. And I don't know how to translate that. If somebody is alleging that you are a thief, you can't be found in inappropriate places holding, a small goat. People know in a village that a goat cannot be your friend. What is a goat doing under your flowing robe? Agbada, and you are being accused of being a thief. Okay? So, if a president in the past was notorious for assailing the right to freedom of speech, in his second incarnation, his administration shouldn't be the administration that you're talking about regulating social media, regulating freedom of speech, not allowing people to talk. So, make no mistake, the right to freedom of speech is under serious assault in Nigeria. And things like what we do is very important for strengthening the voice of the people. So for the finalists today and their friends and colleagues who are taking a cue from the success of today's event, including our friend who said from the Punch that he's been on it for 6 years and now he has his reward. We hope that others will also up their game and then be able to have awards like this in the years to come. We thank everybody for coming, and we hope that in the days to come and the months to come, all of us will continue to work together as a community to strengthen the right to freedom of expression. Thank you. Now, before I go, I have been charged to give a brief explanation about the 2 million naira that one of the awardees is being given as a grant. The idea behind this is for the awardee, the recipient, to be an anchor to a research effort that will lead to the publication of a compendium that will expose how Chinese companies in Nigeria and other foreign companies, Indian, Chinese, whatever, trample on child rights under the guise of employment. The way, that's the idea, and I hope that for the benefits of everybody, we know that that's the idea behind this 2 million grant that is being awarded, that a compendium will be published that will then detail cases and incidents of rights abuses, child rights abuses by all these foreign companies, and indeed, if I must add, local companies. Because whether the abuse is from a foreign company in Nigeria or a local company, is still the same. Abuse of child rights or the rights of children is not acceptable. Thank you.